Daleks all but wiped out, and for the first time in this event we see two Doctors come face to face. Welcome to the Time Lord Victorious Canon Update. Hello, I'm Phil, welcome to my channel. This is the series where I recap events in the previous week's releases of the multi-platform Doctor Who event Time Lord Victorious. That's a mouthful. Specifically the bullet points of what we learn in each instalment and how they all intersect with each other, so that if you're not buying absolutely everything, every entry in the event, you can still get an idea of what's going on around the stuff you are buying and how it all links in. It's a short one this week because there's only two entries to cover. The Dalek animated series, third episode of that, which features the Mechanoids, and Tales of the Dark Times, episode 5, in which the 8th and 9th Doctors team up together. So let's get started with episode 3 of the Dalek animated series, Planet of the Mechanoids. This episode sees the Dalek Emperor land on the Mechanoids' homeworld in a rather battered looking Dalek ship, seeking an alliance with their old enemy to help fend off the entity which we've seen attack them in the last few episodes. We get to learn a bit more about Mechanoid society in this episode. For instance, the Mechanoids of this era are an empire. They have also, seemingly, some kind of emperor figure. That is, in this case, a blue-cased Mechanoid with a little gold head bit. I don't know what you call, whatever you call that bit on the top that kind of sticks up. In addition to the Emperor-type Mechanoid, we also see a Scientist-type Mechanoid, which is all in red casing. These two Mechanoids have a much wider vocabulary than their standard, let's call them Mechanoid drones, that we see from the chase and indeed in this episode again. While the Dalek Emperor goes off to confer with the Mechanoid Emperor, the Dalek strategist talks to a Mechanoid scientist to try and get them to repair their orbital array, which ironically the Daleks have just destroyed, as he knows the entity is following them and will be arriving shortly. While the strategist and the Emperor are elsewhere, the Dalek drones by the ship, they get a little antsy. They start a fight, as Daleks often do. Despite the fact that the Emperor or the strategist did not want them to, they still start a fight. And they lose quite badly. It's implied after this that it might possibly be only the Emperor and strategist left of the whole Dalek Empire. Clearly this isn't the case by the time of the Defender of the Daleks comic from Titan Comics, which is set after this from the Daleks' point of view, so we can probably expect the rest of the series to see them building back up the Dalek Empire again. This particular episode ends with the green cloud floaty entity thing arriving at Mechanus. Then we've got Tales of the Dark Times episode 5. As with all the Times of the Dark Times mini-comics, we've been told by James Goss that they take place in a narrative break in the forthcoming book, All Flesh is Grass. And clearly by the point of this narrative break in the novel, the 8th and the 9th Doctor will have met up and be working together, because this sees the 8th and the 9th Doctor on the planet of Hulan, searching for the Time Lord Victorious himself. But instead they find a fairly regular but very out of place Earth house. Upon investigation, they find a skeleton and a device that they work out is a primitive time machine. The skeleton gradually forms back into a person, a woman who they then strike up a conversation with to find out more. Turns out she invented the time machine herself and tried to get back to the Big Bang just to see what it was all about, and ended up accidentally in the Dark Times, but hit a barrier because Dark Times is time locked, and hence this weird, she's kind of half in the future, half in the past, half in her regular time, half in the Dark Times. And because of that, because the house is sort of half in the Dark Times and half in the future, it means it's a bridge out of the Dark Times that evil races could potentially use to escape the Dark Times. So the Doctors fix the problem and send her and the house back to the present. It's a sort of little side quest for the 8th and 9th Doctors, but there's some nice little moments in it, particularly when the 8th Doctor makes a comment or two that clearly emotionally affects the 9th Doctor, and you can just see the way, even in these quite simple drawings, how it's framed and his facial expressions of sadness come across when the 8th Doctor mentions something about going home, because of course the 9th Doctor thinks he will never go home again, so as he's concerned, Gallifrey is destroyed and gone forever. And that is it for this week's entries. I told you it was a short one. Next week, in addition to another Dalek episode, because we're getting one of those every week, we should have an audio to listen to, not Echoes of Extinction, because that one, which was meant to be coming out from Big Finish actually today as I'm recording this on the 27th of November, has been delayed due to the lockdown restrictions we have here in the UK at the moment, and because it was meant to be coming out in Asda on vinyl first, they've pushed that back because the places aren't meant to be selling non-essential goods at the moment. So they've pushed that back to February, and the download unfortunately goes with it. So we won't be seeing that one, which I would have been covering in the next issue, next edition of this program, but we do have The Minds of Magnox. This is not a Big Finish, this is a BBC audio release featuring the 10th Doctor and Brian, so we have that to look forward to cover as well. If you've enjoyed this video, found it useful at all, it would be fantastic if you could hit that like button, share it around and subscribe, especially that last one, because I am tantalizingly close to 3,000 subscribers and it would be absolutely brilliant to get there by the end of the year. So if you are able to do that, if you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, please do consider hitting that button for more videos like this and on other geeky pop culture topics. In the meantime, I will see you for more Canon update videos next weekend, and in the meantime, Star Trek reviews, if you're interested in that. I do those as well, midweek on Thursdays. Star Trek Discovery. I'll see you then. Bye.